The year is 1906. A man named Fred is tending his pea garden in a small Italian village. There, just outside his home, he makes a shocking discovery. Peas are people. Hello and welcome back to Lean on Success, where process improvement is self improvement. My name is Ben. I'm a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt, and today we're going to cover one of the most popular and most misused concepts in all of statistics. I'm talking about the Pareto Principle, but you may know it better as the 80-20 rule. But before we jump in, I really appreciate it if you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Let's get back to Fred, whose full name is Vilfredo Pareto, a French-born economist living in northern Italy. Pareto was very passionate about protecting free markets and understanding how money circulated within them. He was also an avid gardener, as I mentioned before. One day, as he was harvesting peas, he noticed that 80% of the peas were produced by just 20% of his plants. He then saw a correlation of this data in his studies on the wealth distribution of Italian residents. To his surprise, he discovered that 80% of the land in Italy was owned by the wealthiest 20% of its citizens. Pareto expounded on this concept in a number of books, highlighting the inequality of societies as a whole. He's credited with coining the term elite as referring to the class of people that run governments, commercial markets, and social constructs. Later, his findings will be expanded further into what we now know as the 80-20 rule. So what's the 80-20 rule? Simply put, it states that 80% of the output in a process is caused by 20% of its inputs. Here's one example of a Pareto chart. It lists all of the complaints that a restaurant receives. As you can see based on the chart, roughly 80% of all of the complaints received by this restaurant came from the top two categories, overpriced and small portions. The 80-20 rule is used to estimate phenomenon that we see in different situations. For example, roughly 80% of the traffic in your city is on only 20% of your city streets. 80% of crime is committed by only 20% of the population. And 80% of the productivity in a particular workday comes from only 20% of that particular workday. Again, these are generalizations that we make to show that the distribution of work or output is not equal across all opportunities. However, there is a particular phenomenon that falls perfectly into the Pareto principle: dating apps. Now, we know that dating apps are quickly transforming the traditional ways that people seek romance. I actually met my wife on a dating website, so I know how dependent we've become on technology. And by the way, no, I did not meet her on Tinder. Tinder is the highest grossing dating app in the history of the world and is almost solely responsible for our swipe right, swipe left culture. A recent study showed that 80% of the likes or right swipes that women made were on the top 20% of males by attractiveness. Now, why is the Pareto principle meaningful in this instance? I think it very clearly shows by this graph that not all male users of the app will have the same experience. It's going to depend very heavily on how attractive they are perceived by the opposite sex. The men that are the hottest get all the girls. Then again, isn't that how it's always been? Pareto made his groundbreaking discovery just a few years after his wife left him for a young servant. How fitting is it that Tinder statistics are based off of the work of a man whose wife ran off with a butler? Did you find any of this interesting? Did I completely bore you to death? Did I get something terribly wrong? Let me know down in the comments and share this video. Thanks, until next time.